gather close and listen, because this isn't just a story. This is a whisper from the city of angels, where the sun beats bright by day and shadows grow monstrous by night. They say in the summer of '85, something evil walked the streets of Los Angeles. Not just bad, not just cruel, evil. The kind that leaves a stain so deep the concrete still remembers it. Mothers locked their windows in triple layers. Children slept with lights on, and even the toughest men kept guns at their bedside, because the devil wasn't hiding in hell. He was loose in Southern California, and he wore black. He called himself a Satanist. The papers called him the Night Stalker. But those who lived it, they remember him only as the nightmare with rotten teeth and a hunger for pain. Richard Ramirez. He was born Ricardo Leyva Munoz Ramirez on February 29, 1960, in El Paso, Texas. The youngest of 5 children in a poor Mexican-American family. From the start, he was different, withdrawn, quiet, but there was something else. A darkness behind his eyes that never quite fit. As a child, he was plagued by seizures and night terrors. His father, a former Juarez police officer, would beat him senseless, dragging him out of bed and flinging him into walls when he acted out. His older cousin, Miguel, fresh back from Vietnam, took a special interest in young Richard. And that was the beginning of the end. Miguel showed him Polaroids, women he had raped, mutilated, and killed during the war. One photo, they say, showed a severed head. Miguel laughed when he showed it. Richard didn't flinch. In 1973, Richard was 13 when he watched Miguel shoot his own wife in the face. Blood on the wall, silence. Richard didn't scream. He just stared. By 15, Ramirez was addicted to acid, worshipping Satan and prowling the night. He broke into homes, slept in graveyards, and stalked women like prey. Evil didn't happen overnight. It fermented. And then came Los Angeles. It was 1984 when the killings began. The city didn't know it yet, not at first, but death had already knocked on its door. On June 28, 1984, 79-year-old Jenny Vinco was found in her apartment in Glassell Park. Her throat had been slashed so deep she was nearly decapitated. She had been stabbed repeatedly, and her body was left sprawled across her bed. The killer had entered through an open window. No forced entry, just a shadow slipping through the night. Police found no suspects, no leads. But he had tasted blood now, and he was hungry. The next known attack came nearly a year later. But Ramirez hadn't been quiet. He'd been watching, learning, growing bolder. On March 17, 1985, he struck again. Maria Hernandez, 22, was pulling into her garage in Rosemead when Ramirez confronted her. He raised a .22 caliber handgun and fired. Miraculously, the bullet ricocheted off her car keys and she fled. Inside the condo, her roommate, Dele Okazaki, wasn't so lucky. Ramirez shot her in the forehead, execution style, while she cowered behind the kitchen counter. A second bullet, because one wasn't enough. Just an hour later, he found 30-year-old Silean Veronica Yu in Monterey Park. He pulled her out of her car and shot her twice, killing her instantly. He didn't take anything, just left her body in the street. It wasn't about money. It was never about money. The city was in shock. 2 women dead, 1 survivor, no suspect, and then he vanished, only for a day. On March 27th, Ramirez broke into the home of Vincent and Maxine Zazara. Vincent was 64, a retired investment counselor. Maxine, 44, worked at a local bank. He entered silently, like smoke, shot Vincent in his sleep with the same .22 handgun. Maxine woke to the noise and to the man with wild eyes and a snarl. He tied her up, ransacked the house. But Maxine, desperate, freed her hands and grabbed a shotgun hidden under the bed. Click. Empty. Ramirez exploded. He shot her 3 times, then stabbed her repeatedly. But that wasn't enough. He gouged her eyes out. Yes, her eyes, and placed them in a jewelry box he took with him when he left, as a trophy, as a gift to the darkness he worshipped. People say evil doesn't have a face, but by April, the LAPD had a sketch. Witnesses had described a tall, lanky man with bad teeth and a foul smell, like sulfur and rot. He wore all black, spoke of Satan, and always attacked in the dead of night. He left behind pentagrams. At the Zazara house, he drew one on the wall in lipstick. Sometimes he whispered to his victims, "Swear to Satan." Sometimes he made them repeat it. By the time May turned to June, Los Angeles was in panic. But the Night Stalker was just getting started. Some killers want money. Others want power. Richard Ramirez wanted something else. He wanted to watch people break. He didn't just kill. He hunted, waiting until the city was asleep, then prowling the streets with dead eyes and a sneer that could rot steel. The devil didn't send Ramirez. No, Ramirez came willingly. He saw Satan not as a symbol, but a god, a voice in the black that whispered to him while others dreamed. He never brought food, never packed a bag, just a gun, a knife, and the filth of something that had already left the human world behind. He rarely bathed, never brushed his teeth. His breath was sour with decay. When he spoke, his words slithered out, broken, laced with bile, and usually accompanied by a satanic chant or blasphemy. He believed in signs, omens, pentagrams carved in flesh. He believed fear was the only truth. And in 1985, Los Angeles became his altar. May 14, 1985, Monterey Park. William and Lily Doy. William was 66, retired, quiet. Lily, 63, was recovering from a stroke. They lived in a modest home behind trimmed hedges, normal, safe, until Ramirez slipped inside. He shot William in the face as he reached for the phone. Then he turned on Lily. She couldn't scream, could barely move. So he raped her violently, while her husband bled out beside her. Ramirez ransacked the home afterward, stole a few things, left fingerprints on a window, but mostly he just lingered, smearing his presence like a stain. The next day, William died. Lily survived, but her life ended that night in every way that matters. He struck again just 9 days later. May 29th, Monrovia. Mabel Ma Bell, 83, and her sister Florence Nettie Lang, 81. 2 elderly women, church-going, kind. They left their door unlocked. That night, the devil walked in. Ramirez used a hammer to bludgeon both sisters, shattering Florence's skull. But that wasn't enough. He used an electrical cord to shock Mabel repeatedly. Then he raped Florence. Before he left, he drew a pentagram on Mabel's thigh and on the walls using her lipstick. They were found 2 days later. Florence survived. Mabel died. He always left someone alive. He wanted the fear to live on. The police began to whisper it behind closed doors. This wasn't just a spree. This was a ritual, and it was escalating. By June, Ramirez had become nocturnal. He wandered neighborhoods at random, barefoot sometimes, slipping into unlocked homes like a spirit. He preferred sliding doors, kitchen windows, screen doors with no latches. He loved the silence of bedrooms, the half-light of TV screens glowing in the dark, and the moment before they woke up. That was his favorite. That blink between dream and terror. July 2nd, Arcadia. Mary Louise Cannon, 75, a widow, alone. He beat her with a lamp, then stabbed her repeatedly with a 10-inch blade. She bled to death in her nightgown. No screams, no struggle. He didn't always rape. Sometimes he just killed. Sometimes he just watched them die. July 5th, Sierra Madre. Whitney Bennett, 16. He broke into her family's house in the middle of the night, found her sleeping, beat her with a tire iron, so viciously it fractured her skull in multiple places. He reached for a telephone cord, intending to strangle her, but something stopped him. The cord sparked when it touched the metal of the iron. He paused. Later, he would tell police that Jesus had intervened, that the spark was divine, that it wasn't her time. He left without finishing her. Whitney survived. Barely. She needed 478 stitches to close the wounds on her scalp. By now, the city was paralyzed. Children slept in their parents' beds. Gun sales spiked. Neighborhood watch groups armed with baseball bats took to the streets. News anchors spoke in hushed tones. Ramirez loved it. He watched the news, read the papers. He smiled at the fear. The Night Stalker nickname stuck. He didn't mind. It sounded like a demon, like something that couldn't be killed. July 7th, Monterey Park. Joyce Lucille Nelson, 61. He punched her so hard in the face, his Avia sneaker left an imprint on her cheek. Then he stomped on her head until her skull caved in. That same night, he hit another house. Sophie Dickman, 63. He put a gun to her head, handcuffed her, ransacked her home, raped her, forced her to swear to Satan she had told him the truth when she said she had no more money. Always that line, swear to Satan. He didn't just want control. He wanted devotion. He wasn't a man anymore. He thought he was becoming a god. July 20th, Glendale. Max and Layla Niding, both 66. He shot them both in the head. No taunts, no games, just straight death. Then he looted their home and left. Some nights, it was about the blood. Others, the chaos. And still, he wasn't done. That same night, in Sun Valley, he broke into the home of Chinarong and Somkid Kovananth. Chinarong, 32, was shot in the head in his sleep. His wife was tied up, raped. Their 8-year-old son was dragged from his bed, tied up and locked in a closet while his mother was brutalized. Later, Somkid said he smelled him before she saw him, a mix of copper, sweat, and something unholy. Ramirez told her, "I'm not going to kill you, yet." Then he laughed, like a child tearing the wings off a fly. The media had a field day. The shoe print, the pentagrams, the satanic symbols, his rotting teeth, his foul breath, and the randomness of it all. Different cities, different victims, no type, no preference, just opportunity. He was the ultimate predator. Every person in Los Angeles was vulnerable, rich or poor, young or old, male or female. It didn't matter. If you lived near the freeway, you could be next. And he was only getting started. By late July, Los Angeles was unraveling. The air buzzed with tension, thick as smog. People were sleeping with butcher knives beside their pillows, praying for dawn. Police scanners crackled all night. Helicopters circled the basin, but Ramirez, the night stalker, was always gone by the time the first siren wailed. A shadow in the dark, already vanished into the freeway haze, and he had no intention of stopping. August 6th, 1985, Northridge. Chris and Virginia Peterson were asleep in their home. At 2:30 a.m., Ramirez broke in through a sliding glass door. He shot Virginia in the face, then Chris, but both survived. Somehow, they managed to fight back, and he fled. His rage was growing sloppy, but not weaker, just wilder. The very next day, August 8th, he hit again, this time in Diamond Bar. Sakina Abouath, 27, was home with her husband, Elias, and their 3-year-old son. Elias was shot in the temple as he slept. Execution. Ramirez turned on Sakina, raped her on the living room floor, and made her swear to Satan again and again that she wouldn't scream. Then he tied her up and searched the house, casually chatting with her like a demon on vacation. When he was done, he untied her and said, "Tell them the Night Stalker was here." That was the first time he named himself. To understand the depths of Richard Ramirez, you have to see him not just as a killer, but as someone who rejected humanity entirely. He chose the dark. He didn't just read Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible. He slept with it. He believed he was chosen. That murder opened doors. That rape was an act of worship. He carved pentagrams into his skin, hissed at priests, and laughed at Jesus. He told one surviving victim that Satan was the only God. He believed it gave him power. And now, he didn't care who saw him. August 18th. Peter and Barbara Pan, San Francisco. Yes, San Francisco. He had left LA but carried the horror north like a plague. He shot Peter, 66, in the temple while he slept. Then, he raped Barbara, 62, and shot her in the head as well. In lipstick, he drew a pentagram and wrote, "Jack the Knife," on the bedroom wall. He wanted to be a legend. The city was his theater. Each scene more depraved than the last. The break came by accident. After the Pan murders, San Francisco police found a crucial clue, a fingerprint on the rearview mirror of the victim's car. They ran it through the system. It matched a 25-year-old drifter with a long rap sheet. Richard Ramirez. When the news hit the wires, LAPD was furious. They'd begged the mayor to keep the ID quiet, but it was too late. Ramirez saw his own face in the paper. He was famous now, and he loved it. But fame comes with a price. August 24th. He struck again, back in LA, in Mission Viejo. Bill Carnes, 30, and his fiancée Inez Erickson, 29, were sleeping. Ramirez broke in, shot Bill 3 times in the head, then raped Inez repeatedly. He made her say she loved Satan. He told her he'd return, but he didn't kill her. That would be his mistake. Inez lived, and she remembered everything. His voice, his face, the car. Police found a stolen orange Toyota nearby. Inside were fingerprints, and finally, physical evidence connecting Ramirez to nearly every crime scene. But he was already gone. He didn't even know the world had changed. That his name, face, and crimes were on every news channel, every headline, every whispered conversation across Southern California. No, Ramirez was already on a Greyhound bus, headed to Tucson to visit his brother. But his brother wasn't home. So he returned to LA, and that would be the end of him. August 31st, 1985, East Los Angeles. It was hot that morning, the sun already stinging the pavement. Ramirez stepped into a liquor store, saw his own face on the front page of every newspaper, and panicked. People recognized him. One whispered, "El Matador," the killer. He ran, but the neighborhood wasn't going to let him disappear again. They chased him, block after block, over fences, through backyards. At one point, he tried to steal a car. A man hit him with a metal pipe. A crowd formed. More came. Someone tackled him. They beat him in the street. He cried out for help. "It's him, the Night Stalker," someone shouted. "Kill him." But police arrived just in time to drag his bleeding body away. He'd been caught not by the system, but by the people. The same people he had hunted. The devil had fallen. But the nightmare wasn't over. Because when they brought him to trial, Ramirez didn't weep. He didn't show remorse. He smirked. He raised his hand, showed a pentagram carved into his palm, and whispered, "Hail Satan." When the police finally put him in cuffs, Richard Ramirez didn't scream. He didn't cry. He smiled. Blood on his face, teeth rotting in his mouth, and eyes that looked like they'd seen hell and found it boring. At the station, they asked him why he did it. He answered with a shrug, "I'm beyond good and evil." The trial didn't begin right away. It took 4 years just to bring him to court. 4 years of psychiatric evaluations, evidence gathering, and legal maneuvering. He refused to cooperate, spat on the floor, laughed at the victims' families. At one point, he shouted in the courtroom, "Lucifer dwells within us all." He'd show up wearing pentagrams on his hand, black clothing, his eyes darting around like a cornered animal. But make no mistake, he wasn't insane. He knew what he was doing. He just didn't care. The charges? 13 counts of murder, 5 counts of attempted murder, 11 sexual assaults, 14 burglaries. The list read like a catalogue of human suffering. The prosecution had a mountain of evidence: fingerprints, shoe prints, DNA, ballistic matches, eyewitnesses. They laid out each attack, each murder, like bricks in a mausoleum. One by one, survivors took the stand. Ines Erickson described the smell of him, like sweat and sulfur. Sakina Abawath wept as she remembered being forced to swear allegiance to Satan with her child locked in a closet. Maria Hernandez, who had survived the first attack, pointed at him from the stand. "That's him." He looked back at her and winked. But even surrounded by guards, even caged behind bulletproof glass, Ramirez radiated something feral, something sick, something you could feel. He once turned to the courtroom cameras and said, "Big deal. Death always went with the territory. See you in Disneyland." That was Richard. No apologies, no fear, no humanity left. And still, there were fans. Women sent him letters, naked photos, love notes. Some showed up to court dressed in black, eyes lined in heavy makeup, hoping he'd look at them. One woman, Doreen Leoy, fell in love with him, a magazine editor, educated, rational. She believed he was misunderstood, that he was framed. She wrote him 75 letters. They were married in 1996. She wore a black dress. He wore shackles. She said she would take her life if he was ever executed. Madness attracts madness, but not everyone was fooled. The trial dragged on for 4 years and cost over $1.8 million, the most expensive trial in California at the time. The courtroom was a fortress. Metal detectors, armed guards, body searches, and still, fear lingered. Because on August the 14th, 1988, a juror didn't show up. Police went to her apartment. They found her body, shot in the head. No sign of forced entry. The media exploded. Was it Ramirez? Had he arranged it from jail? Turns out no. It was an unrelated abusive boyfriend. But the timing was a curse. The message was clear. Even thinking about Ramirez could get you killed. Finally, on September 20th, 1989, the jury returned with a verdict. Guilty on all counts: murder, attempted murder, sexual assault, burglary, torture. The judge read the sentence: death, gas chamber at San Quentin. But Ramirez just smirked. "No big deal," he said. "Everyone has their day. I'll have mine." He walked out with the same eerie grin he wore when he walked into your home in the dead of night. Even locked away on death row, the story didn't end. He sat in a 6 by 9 foot cell, high security, for 23 hours a day. He painted pentagrams in his notebooks, wrote letters to fans, smoked cigarettes, slept in the daytime, laughed in the dark. He outlived his death sentence. June 7th, 2013. Ramirez died in Marin General Hospital, not by execution, but from complications related to B-cell lymphoma, a cancer that consumed him from the inside out. His teeth had fallen out, his eyes were sunken, his body weighed barely 130 pounds. The monster was dead, but there was no peace, no funeral, no mourners, just silence. No one claimed his body. He was dumped in an unmarked grave, his ashes scattered anonymously, like a cursed whisper in the wind. But here's the thing. Some say he still walks, not in flesh, but in feeling. They buried him with no headstone, no name, just a file number in the dirt. Richard Ramirez, a man who left 13 dead and hundreds more forever changed. A man who stalked the night like it belonged to him. A man who told the world, "I am the Night Stalker." But evil like that doesn't stay in the ground. In the years since, the places he touched still don't feel right. In Monterey Park, a woman swears her back door creaked open one night at 2:45 a.m. The exact time Maria Hernandez said he first aimed the gun at her. In Northridge, a new family moved into the Peterson home and found claw marks behind the drywall, like someone had been trying to escape from inside. In Glassell Park, the apartment where 79-year-old Jenny Vinca was nearly decapitated sat empty for over a decade. They said no matter how many times it was cleaned, the floorboards still smelled like pennies and rust. And in San Francisco, someone painted a fresh pentagram on the sidewalk outside the Pan home on the anniversary of the murder. No cameras, no suspects. Just red paint and bad dreams. Some say he wasn't just a killer, he was a curse. Ramirez believed murder was a sacrament, a gateway, a ritual that opened something between this world and the next. Maybe he was wrong, maybe not. Even in prison, strange things happened. In the early 2000s, a corrections officer at San Quentin claimed Ramirez stood in his cell for 6 hours, motionless, staring at the wall. When the officer knocked and asked what he was doing, Ramirez whispered, "He's here." "Who?" the officer asked. Ramirez just smiled. "The one who gave me the eyes." That same night, the fluorescent lights on death row flickered and buzzed. Cameras glitched. For 12 minutes, the feed went dark. There's something that happens when evil saturates a place. It stains the walls. It sours the air. You can't see it, but you feel it. People who study this kind of thing, occultists, psychics, demonologists, they say Ramirez didn't act alone. Not spiritually. They say he channeled something ancient. That the reason he didn't run, even when he knew his face was on every screen, was because he wanted to be caught. not to be punished, but to spread, to become a name spoken in fear, a myth. And in that, he succeeded. There are still kids in East LA who won't walk past certain alleys after dark. Still people in Whittier who leave offerings, candles, prayers, even crucifixes on the curb of their driveways. One woman, a nurse who treated his cancer near the end, said she looked into his eyes and felt nothing. Not emptiness, not madness, just absence. Like the soul had already left and something else had crawled in. So what do we make of it? Ramirez is gone. That much is true. His body burned, his name etched in court records, documentaries, textbooks on criminal pathology. But the fear, that never left. Because the real horror of Richard Ramirez wasn't his bullets or his blades or the fact that he could vanish like smoke. It was that he reminded us how fragile the boundary is between our homes and hell. How easy it is for evil to slip through a window. How thin the lock is on your back door. So tonight, before you head to bed, check your doors, close your blinds, and listen, just for a second, to the silence outside your window. Because sometimes, when the night is still, when the city sleeps, and when the wind shifts just right, you might hear it. Not footsteps, not breathing, but the faintest voice, sour, grinning, inhuman, whispering from the shadows. Hail Satan.